discussing about the Python framework Django. Also, we'll be discussing about Sanjay will just give an introduction to Django framework, and also will be looking how to connect the front end with your backend. Hoping that you have all completed your front end developments. We are going forward with this. We have never received a response from your side yet, so we are hoping to get one very soon. I think Sanjay will take over for now. He'll be dealing with today's session for you all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nitin. So today's session will be checking out Django, which is a web framework based on Python. I'll just share my screen. Okay, is my screen visible?
Yes, Sanjay, it's visible.
Okay, so first things first, what's Django? Django is a high-level Python web framework that encourages rapid development and clean, pragmatic design. This means it ensures it has all the functions, all the functionality that you need to build a backend already readily available. So pragmatic design means it is completely based on practical thinking. So this was built by thinking the practical use in mind. So this was built by experienced developers. So it takes care of much of your web development. For example, any web app will have a user feature, login feature, authentication, and a logout or maybe sign out. So all these are inbuilt in Django. You need not write code for that. It is already available as a function. You just need to import it and you directly use it. That is what they're trying to say. You can focus on writing your app without needing to reinvent the wheel. And the best part is it's free and open source. You need not pay to any of their service, and actually you can contribute to their open source on GitHub or somewhere. So let's move to the next slide. So why Django? As I said, it is really fast. You can just install it, and right after installing you can just start writing the code, and you can directly connect it to your server. And to develop you'll be using your local host. Local host is nothing but your machine, your computer which you are using, uh, and it is very secure. It has all the security needs, all the tokens, all the cryptography needs inbuilt. You don't need to write any cryptographic algorithms or any security features explicitly. So we'll be also using one token called CSRF token, which will be handling forms through it. That will be looking tomorrow. For today, we'll be just installing it and handling the responses, and it is exceedingly scalable. This means you might have thought about 100 uses for your app, and it might get really large, and it can go up to 10,000 or 20,000 users. It will be still be scalable. We'll discuss about this in our next slide. Okay. Mm, these are some really big companies which use Django. We all use YouTube, we all use Instagram on a daily basis. And you also know the user base of YouTube. It's literally billions of people and millions of requests coming in daily, and also Instagram too. And Spotify is the number one music streaming app. So there's a lot of traffic there as well. They also use Django, so you might have an idea how scalable it is. And coming to Mozilla, they used PHP before, PHP language and a framework called Cake PHP, and they republished their whole code with Python and Django. And this is Pinterest. It's like an image sharing application. This is also a huge application. There are lots of images, lots of requests coming in daily on a daily basis. So Pinterest also uses Django. This gives you an idea how scalable Django is. Now, talking about the architecture of Django, it follows a principle called MTV or MVT. M stands for model, V stands for view, and T stands for template. Let me explain what these terms mean. Model is nothing but your database schema. Uh, Say you have a text field in your web app. So you have a character field, you have a number field, you have email, you have date field. So we'll be creating model for that. The database schema which you create, that is the in the models file. And Weave is nothing but functionality of your website. You'll be handling your requests, you'll be handling the login, authentication, logout, everything in Weaves. This is the Weaves is all about functions, writing functions and building the functionality of the website. You might want to note on these things because it will be really helpful when you start building. And T starts for template. Template is nothing but your HTML files. In Django or any other backend, as I know, Node.js or any other famous backend frameworks, all call their HTML files, the HTML files as templates. It is nothing but HTML. Templates means HTML files. We'll be making some changes to the HTML files, a little 3 or 2 line changes, and then it will be compatible with Django and that will become template. So let's understand how Django works. So you have a browser through which you can HTTP request. So I'll just demonstrate with our V2 website. So if you type v2.ac.in and click enter, this right here, when you click enter, it sends a request to the server or the place where your web app is hosted on. When the request goes on, the response comes back as this page. This page, what you're seeing is nothing but HTML, CSS, and JavaScript basically. So this was the response. And now let's go after the HTTP request. There are URLs, urls.py. So URLs are nothing but the location. So let's say I click on pay now. So here you can see we came to v2.ac.in, and when I clicked on pay now, it took me to this location, that is online fee payment. That is nothing but URLs. The thing that we will be handling in urls.py is these locations. When you click on uh, any other thing, it takes you to another location, for example aerospace engineering. So we'll be creating this what do we say, location thing in our urls.py file. After it goes to the urls.py file, the urls are linked to some functions. When you go to say pay now, there are some functionality in this page right there. When you click on marks code on or anything, you fill a form or you make a payment. That is the functionality of this app. So the functionality of the app will be handled by views.py file. After that, after you handle, let's say you filled in the form and made the payment, you might receive a response saying that thank you for paying your fees, or you have received the OTP on your mobile phone, or you will receive a confirmation mail. That is the response. Uh, in browser or in web, we send responses through HTML. In app, it might be different. In iOS, again, in Android, it may be different. In iOS, it may be different. I'm talking about the native applications. Android has XML, like that. Native applications have their own response. So in web, we have HTML. After confirming, after our views.py files execute, it will send a response. We'll be doing that today. So you'll understand better when we demonstrate. So I said it will send a response. What will be the response? It will be a HTML file. In our case, HTML file is our template. So this will be sent as. So in our case, template HTML file is our template. So this template will be sent as the response. But if your functionality needs to access some data in the database, that way that's where the models.py file comes to play. Your views.py is linked to models.py, so it can read or write data to models. You can only read or write data to models, which is our database, which is attached to our database actually. You can read or write data through the views file. We'll be seeing that. We'll be installing Django and demonstrating that. So some good to know things here are, I say I use the term models. So models are nothing but database structure or a schema that will be in the form of classes in Python. I'll show you a example for that. For now, you need to understand models are nothing but database schemas which are in Python classes. And views are functionality of your website, maybe login, authentication, payment, or anything that will be in the form of Python functions. Functionality of your website will be in the form of functions. And you need to understand these terms. These are Django specific. Templates templates means HTML files, nothing else. Templates, when I said express as templates, that will be HTML files. And there are static files in Django. Static files means CSS, JavaScript, and images. These images are not the user uploaded or user inputted images. These are the images which you use to build your website. The graphics and those things, the icons, those are those images. So these come under static files. Maybe you want to take a screenshot or something. This is important. We'll be creating folders for each of them. So now let's go ahead and install Django. For that, you need to type in cmd, which is the command prompt in your Windows machine, and you need to have Python and pip installed. Pip is nothing but Python package installer or something like that. So to check if you have Python installed, you just have to type Python minus minus or hyphen hyphen version. So it is installed. It says Python 3.9.1. And to check pip, it's the same way. Pip pip hyphen hyphen version. So it says pip 20.2.3 from Python 3.9. So I have Python 3.9.1 installed and pip also installed. If you don't have it installed, you'll go to python.org and install it. You might be already working on Python, so I'll not go through it. You must check this pip version. When you have that pip, you just need to say pip install Django. You need to be connected to the internet because it will download some files. It will install Django in 1 or 2 minutes. So it says successfully installed Django. Now let's go and create a project. To create a project, you need to have a folder. In my case, I have this DBMS folder. Inside of that, I have two folders. That is front end. Let me make it a little bit. Okay, front end, where all my front end files are there, and I have a src file. You can name it as according to your convenience. I name it as src, that means source folder. You can name it as source or src. Src is easier, so I'm using src. So I'll open this whole folder in my VS Code. Now I have my terminal over here. If you don't see the terminal, just go head over to the terminal in the upper section and click on New Terminal. You will see a terminal. And here's the important thing. Here there's a drop down menu. In here you must select CMD, not PowerShell. PowerShell will not work with Django. There's some issues, I have tried with it. So you must select CMD, that's command prompt. And also check if the path is correct, if you're inside the DBMS folder. So now I'll be navigating through. I'll change my directory to SRC, that's CD SRC. So now I'm inside the SRC folder. Now here I'll be creating my Django projects. So there's a command to start a project. So you might need to note on this command. It is Django -admin create project. And finally you have to mention the project name. I'll give it a name. So this is how's my command looking. Django admin create project, Django admin space create project space the project name. And at the end you have to put a dot. This dot is to this dot says I need to work in the current directory which I'm in. If you don't put this dot, it will again create another folder inside your source folder. It will be really confusing. So if you mention this dot, all the files will be created in your src folder. You just need to enter this command and press enter. Okay, sorry, it's not create project, it's start project. It's create app and start project. So Django admin start project, project name, and finally a dot. So when you have run this command inside of your source folder, you might be seeing these files. There will be a charity mat, which is your project name, which and init.py file and asgi ASGI file. So these files are used to use when you're hosting or deploying. So you need not worry about these files, init.py and asgi.py or wsgi.py for that matter. You'll be only working with settings.py and urls.py. After we have our project, we need to create an app. App is nothing but this whole thing will be your project. Inside that you need to create an app. So for that the command will be okay, I forgot to mention about this python manage.py file. Manage.py file is which manages all the things happening in your project. So you will not change anything over here. It will be as it is. You'll be using this you'll be executing this file many times, but you'll not be changing a single thing inside here. So in your src folder, when you say python manage.py start app and then app name. So I'll name my app as main. This is my project and this will be the main app inside my project. So when I say startup main, you will receive another set of another set of files in a folder called main. That will be your project app name. Inside the src folder you have two folders, charity mat and main. Charity mat is your project name main is your app name. So inside of your project, you have some files. We'll be working with only settings.py and urls.py. After this, in main, we'll be working with uh, admins dot I mean admins.py. It will be a single line code over here. Models to create our database schema and views. Only these three things. Another files are used. This test.py is used to test. We are not building such a big application that we have test cases. Test cases. So we'll be working with admin.py, models.py, and views.py. So now to check if your installation and the project creation is successful, you need to run a command called python manage.py run server. This run server command, python manage.py run server command, will run a server in your local host. That will be your Django development server. When you press enter, you will be given with have some migrations. Migrations will be talking that tomorrow it is related to your database. So it says starting development server at this link. So if you press Control plus click your mouse button, this says install work successfully. Congratulations. Here, if you see, there's some random IP address that is nothing but your local host, and there's a port number. You can also change this port number when you have that run server command. Uh, to kill the running server, you press Control and C. That will kill the server. If you refresh, uh, there will be no response. So again, to run it with a different port, I'll say it was by default it is 8000 always. I'll say 8080. And if you go ahead and type local host and a colon and hyphen a port number that is 8080, you'll see it works. You can work on any port number as you wish, and the the IP address that you find is nothing but your local host. So now we have successfully installed Django. Now let's see how we can link it with our front end and handle the responses and create those URLs. Okay, so for now we'll kill the server and head over to our settings.py file in my project folder. I spoke about templates and static files, so we'll just create a folder for them. I'll create a new folder called templates, or just okay, templates, and another folder called static. Now I'll just go to my front end folder and copy all the HTML files. Just copy all the HTML files to your templates folder. Templates folder should have nothing but the HTML files. And in the static folder, you will need all the images that you have, and if you have any CSS, external CSS that you have created other than Bootstrap, also copy that file into your static folder. After you have copied, uh, go back to your settings.py, and I'll come through the first. So there's a path function. We'll talk about it. Here, base directory means the project base directory. This base dir means base directory, which is our src folder. It will fetch on its own. You don't need to mention anything in here. Where you start the project, it will be the base directory. And then we have security key. This will be required when you deploy, so we'll not talk about that a lot. This is required when you host, your hosting services ask for a secret key. You'll have to enter this. So debug is true because we are in development stage. When we are in production stage, we'll just turn debugging to false. For now, we are developing, so this needs to be true. And allowed host is your domain names. We have seen www.google.com. So when you host it somewhere, you'll just write google.com if you own that DNS. The DNS domain names can be bought by sites like GoDaddy or something like that. You need to mention those in a Python list. So we don't have any host right now, so I'll just keep it empty. Now we have installed apps. So as far as now, we have only installed one app, that is main. This is nothing but a Python list. So these are all the default apps, default Django apps. You need not worry about that. We'll be using some of them later in later stage. So we have created our own app, that is main. So we just need to enter it. That's it. You enter it and save it. It's fine. Every time you create a new app, you must come under the settings.py file and installed apps list and mention it over here. This is very important. If you don't mention the app over here, the Django will not recognize that you have created an app. So these middleware files are nothing but some extra features, security features, all those sort of things. This is very helpful when you are making a large project. All these features are used in large projects because we don't have that type of front end or that type of idea. So we'll just skip this. These middlewares are, if you see here, these are security features, and I talked about CSRF tokens. These are tokens, authentications. These are some advanced topics which we don't need for now. This is the root URL configuration. You don't need to worry. This will be automatically created when you create a project. This is something we need not worry. Then there's templates list. So we have a templates folder over here inside of our source folder. But how will Django know that it is right there? So inside of DIRs, that means directories, we need to mention the path for this templates folder. So as you see here, we have a base directory, that means our src. Here it says build path inside the project like this. So base dir slash sub dir. So our base dir, it will be automatically fetched by Django. In our case, sub dir is templates, uh, where our templates folder exists. So we'll just say base dir, comma, sorry, base dir slash sub dir. And so our subdirectory here is templates. We'll just mention templates. So now we have configured templates with our Django. That's how we do it. We'll also configure static files. Here you can see databases. By default, Django has a database that is visible right here in your app folder. This is db.sqlite.3. When you create an app, by default this file will be created, which is our database. So if we head over to db.sqlite, we have a browser like this. You can check, we can check and open the database externally and check how many tables or how many fields are there inside that. So I've already installed this. I'll be sending you the mails to download this. So for now, we'll see how it works. Here I have a uh, database browser, and if I open the database, mm, just try to locate the folder source and db.sqlite3, it has nothing. The tables are zero, the indices are zero, weaves, triggers, everything is zero because we haven't made any migrations or we haven't used our database. So it is an empty database for now. You'll need this software to demonstrate or write your project reports. So I'll send over the links, you can download it and use it. The default database is SQLite3 uh, name. It is specified over here, the base directory and SQLite3. You can see inside of our source folder, there is SQLite3. By default, this will be configured. You need not configure. Only if you have to use any other SQL databases like PostgreSQL, Oracle SQL, or MySQL, you need to change this backends to your particular name and the database. For now, we need not change any database. We are not going to produce this app or put into deployment. So this will be fine for our project. There we don't need any changes. These are password validators that we'll be using in the later stages. And here we have language code that is English US, that's fine. Time zone, our time zone is not UTC, so you'll be changing it to Asia slash Kolkata. That is our time zone. And finally, we have our static files. Here we have a URL which takes you to the Django documentation. If you control click on it, it will take you to the documentation, official documentation of the Django framework, configuring static files. Already we can see this thing in our settings.py, so we did not include this again. In our templates, we need to add this load static tag, and every static file inside our template, that is HTML file, again we need to mention that it is a static file, so that Django understands that's a static file. For example, they have an image over here. In the src tag, they have mentioned it as static. We will be doing with it with our images as well. We'll be doing it right before or right after this configuration. After that, we need a folder where Django can access static files from. That's where you add this static files directories list. You just need to copy this, come back to your VS Code, and paste it right below this. We don't have a uh, hosted on any cloud or any drive, so we'll be not be needing this hosted thing, because we have only stored our static files in our machine. That is, we have stored it locally. We didn't host it on any cloud or something. So this second thing we don't require it really. So we have only one folder, that is static, which we have created. So now our templates and static for files are configured. That's all about settings.py. You don't need to change anything. Every time you create a new app, you need to come here and write the name of it. Just type in the name, you're good to go. That's it. That's how you install an app. We are done with the settings folder, and the next file we'll be working on is urls.py. URLs is nothing but the paths. Path is an inbuilt function. As I said, Django has everything already available. You don't need to write any external functions for the URL path. It has from the package Django URLs, it has something called as path. And here the path specifies admin panel. This admin this admin URL takes you to an administration panel which is inbuilt. You don't need something like in PHP we use something like my PHP admin, so we can manage the database. Inside of this, we don't need to install anything new. If you run your server, if you run the server and just go to it, and here the path is admin. So put a forward slash and type admin. We have a Django administration inbuilt. We need to create a super user in the command terminal. So we'll be doing that tomorrow. For now, we'll be just handling the responses. We'll not be doing anything with the database as well as today. So this is just to show you the feature of Django. It has everything inbuilt, so you need not download any administration software or anything. So this is inbuilt path. This is inbuilt path. So if we had to, let's say, create a path of, sorry. So let's stop this server for now. To stop the server, you need to press Ctrl and C. For now, we'll just copy this and paste. If you had to create our own path, for example, I need to create a home page for my application. So you just need to hard code the string that is home, and these are nothing but your functions. You need to link it with your functions. We'll be doing that in a later stage. So that's all about the project folder files. Only settings and URLs are the files we are going to be working with. And if you go inside the main folder, there are again some files. Here there's init admin. Will not be using init. Admin will just be using to register our models, which will be looking tomorrow. This app, it will be configured by default. We don't need to write anything inside the apps.py file. So this is also ruled out. So models.py are the place where we create database schema that we'll be doing tomorrow. For now, we'll be using the views.py file. That is where our functionality and handling the request, that's what we do inside of this views.py file. So for now, as you might see, let's go to our video website. As you might see, there are tons of things in here. There's an about section, there's academic section, research, panel. If you consider, there are a lot of paths. If you click a single thing, everything has a unique path to it. So if you decide to create multiple apps and configure all of your URLs inside this one single urls.py file, it will be jumbled. You will have a long list, and it will be very difficult to manage. So what we will do now is we'll create a file called urls.py inside our app folder, not the project folder, but the app folder. Instead of main, I'll create a file called urls.py. So we can separately create paths for separate apps. Let's say if I had a second app, we can create an urls.py separately for it, and we'll have to just link it with the main urls.py that we'll be doing right now. So let's import the path. We'll be needing this in our uh, second urls.py file. So don't get confused. Here's the charity mat, that is our project, which is defaultly created by Django. And this is main, our app urls.py, which we have created user defined. So we'll need path here also. And If you observe over here, the URL patterns is nothing but a list of tuples. Sorry, it is nothing but a list of strings. This path is nothing but a string. This path joins this admin to a particular function. Okay. This admin path links to this function. This home path will link to this function. This is just a duplicate of that. We'll be creating our own functions in views.py file where we will be handling the functionality. So now if we head over to our main.py file, I mean the URLs in our main.py file, we have done nothing, just imported the path, and we also need a URL pattern list over here as well. So I'll just copy paste, but we'll not be needing the admin because we have it already on the main page. So now to link this URL, the app urls.py file to the project URL, you just need to include a function. You just need to import a function called include. That's it. Uh, and then the path will be nothing. The paths will be coming from over here. We'll be creating separate paths for these apps. So we'll leave it empty. And the function for this empty thing is the URLs app urls.py file. So to link that, we'll be using the include function which we have imported. For that, you just need to type include. Include what? We need to include mains URL py file of the main. That is, main is our app. So you put it in a string, say main dot URLs. That's it. So now this URL, the user created urls.py file is linked with the project URLs, which is default. So now we did not create a ton of paths over here. We can have separate paths, separate URLs for our apps. Now to create a path, we'll just say path, and I need to create a home page. So I'll say home, and to this I'll link you to a function that is in our views.py, which we haven't created yet, but I will just do it. So here views dot home. Home is the function that is found in views. So now we'll go and create a function called home. That accepts that takes an argument a request. When you get a request, according to that you will be sending the response. You'll be sending the response according to the request. So uh, we have the views over here, but we don't have link to the views.py over here. So we'll just need to import it from dot. Dot means current working directory, nothing else. It will see all the files in the current directory and import from dot import views. That's it. So now we have linked. Okay. Okay, that's fine because we didn't write anything over here. It showed an error. And so now we have linked this home path to our views file, which has a function called home. I hope this is understandable. If you don't understand anything, please feel free to reach out and in the WhatsApp or on the Discord. We'll be happy to help. So now we have a render function here. render function does nothing but renders our HTML file. So when we get a request from this URL path, we'll return a render. So sorry, we'll return a render. So this is return render. This render, as you can see here, it takes requests. So that might be a HTTP request or anything. So we are taking the request as an argument over here, which comes from the URL path, and we are putting it over here, passing it to our render.
Hey Sanjay, your audible. You can share your screen now.
Hello.
Yes, Sanjay, you're audible. You can share your screen now.
Sorry, the power went down. So I'll share my screen again. Hope my screen is visible now.
Yes, Sanjay, it's visible.
Okay. So we'll go back to our VS Code. Yeah, so we'll take this request, we'll pass this request as an argument to this home function, and we'll be returning a render that will be based on the request that's coming in. Render to request and HTML file. For home, I have a file name called index.html. That's it. We have configured our front end with a backend. So now let's check it in the terminal. Every time you need to check, uh, you need to check if you need to check any functionality, the server needs to be running. So I'll just cd into my src folder, and I'll say python manage dot py run server. Okay, now we have our server running. So by default, for the uh, home, we don't have anything. Now if we do forward slash and home, okay, template does not exist at. So okay, we'll figure this out. Okay. Okay, we have a template folder inside the SRC. Let me check the path. Okay, this is out of the SRC, so I'll just put in the templates folder inside my SRC and it should work now. Yeah. And so we have a local host running at the running server at the port 8000, and we have the path here, which we have mentioned over here, home. So let me now change it to something. I'll just say index. Instead of home, I'll say index. If I reload, it will throw me error for not for page not found error because we changed the path. If I go to index again, everything worked fine. But if you see here, let me show my original index.py file. I mean index.html file. See, I have some pictures over here, but that seems to be not showing up on our server. That is because we need to configure them as static files, as I said, because images are static files. So if I go to my templates folder and index.html, mm, at the beginning, at the very beginning of every heavy HTML file, to make it a template, you need to mention, this is a syntax. There's a flower bracket, a percentage sign. Inside of the percentage sign, you need to say load static. Okay, this tag will help Django load all the static files, and then locate your image files as we saw over here. Inside of the SRC, you need to mention it as static file. So let's head over to our image. So there's our image file. Inside of SRC, we need to mention that as static. This is the syntax, flower bracket, a percentage sign, and static keyword, and then you need to end with the same percentage and flower bracket. So this is how it looks. uh, at the beginning we had only this thing, but now we have these things as extra because Django will know this image is a static file and I'll find it in the static folder. Now if we head back to our mm, let me run my server. CSRC and then python manage.py run server. Wait for it to load, and if you click on that and go to your index path, okay, the static needs to be inside of our source folder, sorry. And then if we refresh, now we can see your first image. So if you click on next, and you can't see the next image because we didn't mention that as a static file. So now let's head back to our VS Code and locate our second image. As you see, there's a difference between this image tag and this image tag. So this 2.png needs to be inside of static. You need to change everything to static, which I mean, if it is a CSS file or a JavaScript file or a image file, you need to mention it as static. As simple as that, guys. Syntax is really simple. uh, just a percentage flower bracket inside the quotes. That's it. Now if we go back and click next. Okay, there's some.
You added an extra space there.
Okay, this will work now. Yeah, now we have a second image too, and same for the third image as well. That's how we link our front end with the server, Django server. And now mm, you need to do this all for all of the HTML files you have. You need to head over to your views.py file and let me cancel this and create an other function called say let's say login, and you pass the request as the argument which you require, which you get from the browser, and return the particular HTML. And there's request, and finally the name of your HTML that is linked with your function. For me, it's just login.html. And now you need to link this function with your path, URL path. So I'll just copy this and paste it again. So for my login function, I need a path called login, just login. And the function linked to this login path is views dot login. As easy, guys. That's really easy. Just you need to create functions and link it with your HTML and create a path of your. It can be anything of your. I'll just say QWERTY to check if that works. You, it's left to you. So if I head back over here and type QWERTY, it takes me to my login page. That's how you connect your mm, front end with your Django server, Django backend. As you might see here, there's an image file cracked over here, which is corrupted, which Django can't understand that's an image, that's a static file. So you need to head over to your, for me, it's my login page, problem in my login page, and there's a image source, source, and again, make it as static file. Enclosed in the quotes, and if I refresh, sorry, I did mention this as static, but at the beginning I didn't say this page has to load the static files too. So at the beginning of every HTML file, you need to mention flower brackets percentage load static from this HTML page. Now if I refresh, you can see my icon is visible. That's just how you convert your front end to your working back end, as easy as it is, and it will be linked. It is working on your local host. So that's easy, I guess. If you have any issues with linking the front end with your backend, please reach out to us on Discord or on WhatsApp. We'll be ready to help you. For now, I'll be just sending you the links of this SQL browser and all the required resources. So that's it for today. Tomorrow we'll be working with a database and
Sanjay, sorry to interrupt you. Could you please explain that urls.py in the home folder and in the app folder? That was a bit confusing part. So could you just briefly explain it again?
I didn't get your question. The two URLs you are
Yeah,
speaking
yeah,
about?
exactly.
Okay. So if you see here, inside of our SRC folder, there's charity med. That is our project folder, which is the main project. And inside of that project, we can have as many apps as we want. So every URL must be configured in the main urs.py, that is default. So uh, every app has a lot of paths. You can have login, logouts, and n number of paths. If you tend to mention all those paths in this default URLs, it will be a really long list and it will be very difficult to manage when you start building some big applications. So that is not a good practice. So instead of that, what you do is uh, the main folder. Okay, inside of your main folder, there is no urls.py file by default. So you create one, and when you create, you only put in the URL paths that is related to your particular related to the particular app which you are working on. For example, my main app has home folder, login page, a logout page, and so on. So I'll just create as many paths as I want. How many features have that depends on how many features I have, and I'll link every path to a function that is in my viz.py file. So okay, so we have created this urls.py that is not by default. So Django will not understand that there's an another urls.py that also I need to take into account. So for that to happen, as you can see, there are two urls.py file over here, and what this include does is it includes path from other urls.py files, as simple as that. If I say over here, if I say it's from my main app, okay, if I do that, and I hope my server's running on, okay, if I go to main, there's nothing. So this main will be forwarded to include which is main.urls, your apps urls files. After that, after your main, you can have index. So if I do main slash index, you can see index is visible now. If you just remove this and leave it blank, you can this blank path is called root path. So this main will be not required anymore. This is your localhost and port number slash your path, your URL path. It will be redirected. Hope that's understandable.
Yes, Sanjay, that was fine. Thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Please, guys, if you don't interact, this will be difficult. So if you have any sorts of doubts in your mind, please feel free to ask. There's only 9 people. At the beginning, we had around 90 people. We have nine, so at least we can interact. So if you feel shy or something like that, please feel free to DM direct message me or put it in the group. That is fine as well. So tomorrow we'll be looking for to interact our to interact with the database, that is create a models, create a database schema, and uh, link it with our front end. So that's it for today, guys. You can leave. Thank you.